Connor, my man.
Shayan, my boy. Oh, sorry, that was disrespectful, though.
My man. Who are you? My boy.
My boy.
Yeah, there are a few people I permit to call me that, but you'd be one of them.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Pleasure to have you on Iblis Manifestations. But
Pleasure to be here.
about fucking time we do this. Like, how long have we been talking about you coming on the podcast? Like 3 years or something?
3 years sounds about right. Yeah.
3 years. Fucking. So, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, Connor is the vocalist and lyricist in WYRDSTÄF. And we've been playing together for almost 10 years now.
Yeah, nearly a decade, man.
I don't know where the fuck that time has gone, to be honest with you.
It's gone somewhere.
Yeah, and then WYRDSTÄF, I think, conceptually might be one of the most interesting bands, you know. Like, obviously, I very much take pride in the music that we've kind of collaborated together to write for it, and I love all of the contributions I've made to it. But the concept alone, I think, it's a really unique idea for a band, especially within the context of extreme metal.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we do very much branch out of that and play with soundscapes, ambient stuff, even tribal stuff, even melodic sections.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think one of the best descriptions we ever had was the combination of Heilung and Icelandic black metal with a sprinkle of Primordial.
I don't remember that one. Where was that from? Do you remember?
That's from the early years.
The Warhorns days.
The Warhorns days, exactly, when we did the debut shows back in 2018.
Yeah. Good shows. Yeah. It's I think it is quite a unique concept sound that we're trying to go for sure. Just love the Stone Age, man. Just love the Stone Age.
The Stone Age. So tell me then, so how did that idea kind of come about for you? Because, in fact, let's talk about how we actually first met. Because you actually promoted a Tribex show.
Yeah. Back in York. You're probably going to know the date better than I do. I want to say 16.
No, it was 20. This is only like because I don't know if some people watching this will know this, but I have a real knack with dates. I think it's around 23rd or 24th of January 2017.
Good man.
Yeah.
So yeah, used to run a promotion company in Northern Extremity, Northern Extremity Promotions. I think we had you on with I can't remember the other bands actually. But yeah, we had you guys on. We met you there. Investment services, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then I remember like maybe 2 or 3 months later, you put out this idea.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, I'm looking to put this band together and it's black metal, but it's about prehistoric humans. I was like, what?
Yeah, the old Facebook post. Yeah, we got a fair amount of interest off that. But obviously, like I'd seen you guys perform and was like, right, I need to get Shayan, and if I don't get anyone else in. So you obviously made the cut before the cut was even called. Just kind of went from there. We've obviously gone through a few more lineup changes since then, but yeah. That was the start of it. Like, I guess with the sort of prehistoric idea of it, because you get a lot of bands that talk about like history or like mythology, all that sort of stuff. But if we think about like recorded history, even the last sort of like 5,000-6,000 years, like that only really accounts for 2% the entire time that humans have been here on this planet. Like 98% of humanity's history is in the Stone Age. So that's like 3.2 million years ago to around about 4,000 or 2,000 BCE, sorry, depending on whereabouts in the world you're talking about. So I think there's such a wide breadth of stories that we will just never know about, because obviously there's no recorded history for that time. We're relying entirely on archaeology. We're relying on anthropology, just like what were people experiencing back in those days, what sort of beliefs did they have, what sort of lifestyles did they live, particularly in like the Paleolithic, which is the oldest Stone Age, which is what we obviously concentrate on. Yeah, it was just this real interest of mine. For you who don't know me, I'm a history teacher. I did my sort of history degrees at York, and it was always early medieval, but I've always been very much inspired by the earlier stuff, the Bronze Age, the Stone Age, the things where we don't have the records, but we have more creativity, where we can sort of, just
I like to call it binaural history.
binaural history. Well,
Yeah. Well, I'll explain. You know, like when you got binaural beats, the way it works is that you have a set of frequency on one side of the on one ear, and then you add a different set of frequencies in the other ear. And then what the brain does, it imagines the frequency in between.
Okay.
And you can actually essentially, for lack of a better term, perhaps tune the brain into that frequency that's in the middle. So where you can listen to music and it can actually create different feels, you know, so it can create feelings of relaxation. It can create feelings of focus, but then also what it does, I mean, if you can call focus a feeling, but what it also does, you can create other types of frequencies as well. So for example, one of the early examples of this was an old film. I can't remember if it was from like the 40s, but there's an earthquake scene. And in that scene, they actually use binaural beats to create a feeling of dread during that scene with the earthquake.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that was a thing, but
Well, I incorporated that into the song The Serpent's Gaze. So actually, when you're not listening to it, when you listen carefully at the beginning, there's a specific set of frequencies. Like there's this weird sound that you keep hearing, like going. It's extremely subtle, but the whole song has this like layer, like a subtle over it that kind of has that impact on those.
it's like
Yeah. So I look at it as binaural history. You've got a piece of information here, and you've got another bit of information here. So now imagine.
well, that's it. They're like, yeah. Well, I mean, we only have like very limited information from that time period, so I think that it naturally lends itself to being more creative and sort of having those interpretations. And obviously, like storytelling and music has been a part of human history since forever. We are a species that thrive from stories. It's how we understand the world around us, and I feel like trying to recreate these stories of the Stone Age it's something like very intrinsically human. We don't yet have the trappings of civilization, like the music that we're talking about, also the world that we're talking about in our music. We don't even have agriculture yet. Like there is just this sort of innate instinctive relationship with the world. We are like living amongst mammals, living amongst other megafauna. It is, I don't want to say animalistic, because as much as humans are a type of animal, there is also like something different within us as well. Like we are obviously intelligence than the majority of animals on the planet. We develop society, develop language, develop music.
Yeah, we were genetically engineered to harvest gold. So that's the difference. To harvest gold for the Anunnaki to solve the atmosphere of the planet.
Well, I don't know about that, but like, yeah, sure. Like, we've got something over it. Like we're not ferrets for
That's just better in the words. Yeah, man. Yeah, jokes aside, please carry on. Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I just think it's like this very instinctive, like natural state of being that we're in, living in small tribes, small communities, probably like, I don't know, 20 to 50 people, like nomadic existence, wandering the sort of periglacial steppes of Europe, going down into the forests. Yeah, it seemed ripe to tell the stories that I wanted to tell. But you mentioned it again.
Well, I think one of the most compelling things about the album Primordial Bloodlines, which is not coming out in like 2 months, which I'm super fucking excited that we're finally getting this out there. But one of the most compelling things about this album is that it's not just an album with like lyrics that are about like darkness and evil or like even like a first person experience, but actually the album is the story of a prehistoric tribe that are essentially having to leave their homeland due to the impending ice age and move somewhere else. And it's the challenges that they face along the way, which I can't think of any other album, at least in the context of metal, let alone even outside of that even taps into a topic like this.
Yeah, I think like you get a...
And let's not, let's not play the comparison game. Let's just appreciate it for what it is, which I think is a very interesting and compelling story because each song shows the different steps of the way. And there are some work we're doing around visually representing that, which we won't give away too much on that just guess. But I think just the story in itself is extremely compelling, man.
Ah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, like I wanted to root it in like as much as you can be creative with it. I did want to root it in the fact. So obviously, glaciation period, last glaciation, sort of 300,000 years ago to like 11,000 years ago. I wanted to root it in like deep Paleolithic. I wanted to imagine like what would people think? What would a community of humans think if they had to, leave somewhere that they'd lived their entire life? Like glaciers are advancing, the land that they could formerly depend on to provide for them, that was full of animals that they could hunt, for plants they could gather, like that no longer is a friendly place for them. That no longer welcomes that. It's not somewhere they can thrive. Um, and like you see in like communities around the world, indigenous communities, make communities there, where it's so deeply tied to place and so deeply tied to the land that they have lived on for generations and generations. What would that look like if they are forced to then abandon it, for lack of a better word, to move somewhere else because survival is not a problem there, and sorry, because survival is not possible there. So I think it does tie into like that very human narrative of migrations for a start. Obviously, we've got the song Great Migrations. Like humanity is a nomadic species, generally speaking. Like it's only with the advent of agriculture 10,000 years ago that we like started to settle down in one place, develop civilizations, develop like larger settlements, and actually stay rooted for a little while. Before that, like we were wandering around, we were following migratory herds, we were like going where the plants were blooming and in season. Like it was very much a transitory population, and I wanted to explore that, where you're moving out of the sort of general area that you've lived and going into completely unknown parts.
We still have that in Iran, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a. I don't want to compare them to, of course, gypsies. We call them kuchneshinam,
Okay.
which essentially means travel settlers.
Yeah.
And these are people that literally travel around with their animals, and they use like goat hide to build tents. And like they still live that super old school lifestyle to this day. There are still groups of them that are totally detached from the world. And this is not some fancy like touristy thing, like no, these are just essentially people who are, they live very modestly, they live off of the fat of the land essentially, but they're also like traveling constantly, and obviously their options are probably a bit more limited now, given that civilization has grown, and Iran is obviously a very large country, but Iran also still has a lot of nature reserves.
Yeah.
Massive, massive nature reserves, especially towards the north and also the west side of the country, where you have the Alborz and Zagros mountain chains. So these people are just fucking traveling around, living with their cows and sheep, and it's an interesting life. But just to say that, as you rightfully said, that the nomadic nature has always been a part of us, and
I mean, like up until obviously agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago, that's like the start of civilization beginning to sort of centralize life around it. But I mean, even up until the Industrial Revolution, there were like still loads of nomadic groups across the world. You've got like First Nations people in Canada, the Native Americans in America, and you've got the Inuits up in the Arctic regions. Even Irish travelers, Remley travelers. Yeah, like Africa, you've got the Bushmen. Like there are so many people that have like lived their entire lives in this nomadic way, wander around, living off.
we came across some Irish travelers last night.
We did, yeah, in the start. It was lovely. Yeah. I think it's like a very. I'm hesitant to use the word human because the human experience is obviously different for everyone, but it is a very sort of genuine, I think, form of human existence to be traveling, to be moving. And I think that's why I wanted to like. Probably not when my sideband. Probably when the sideband, I was like, yeah, the Stone Age is pretty cool. But like, as I thought more about it, like, I want to be telling human stories. I want to be sort of delving into a world that isn't necessarily explored much, I think, in modern media. I think for a long time, it's beginning to get a little bit better now. There was this sort of conception of the Stone Age as just like these primitive Neanderthal cavemen, so they'd walk around, with clubs, like clubbing the women over there, dragging them back to a cave, and like, yeah, having their way with them. Just like,
I mean, it just sounds like Afghanistan today, to be honest. But
just like it's a savage existence, isn't it? Like that's, I think if you talk about the Stone Age, that's
but we're like discounting their intelligence.
well, of
There's
course,
the survival skills that they had,
Yeah.
which you had to have a lot of just to get through another day.
100%. Like we humans, biologically speaking, have not really changed or not really evolved in our brain structures since the Paleolithic. There was the cognitive revolution around 50,000 BC, where like suddenly there was this explosion of like new tool making across Europe and the Near East, North Africa. So like a little development around 50,000 BC, but generally speaking, today we are still operating on like Paleolithic machinery in our brains, and obviously life has changed a lot, even in the last 50 years, let alone the last fucking 200, like 300 since the Industrial Revolution, 10,000 since the agricultural one. Like we're playing catch up. We're not designed to live in this like very tech focused world. But the sort of point I'm trying to make is that like they were just as intelligent as us. They still, you know, had relationships, had communities, had like structure to their lives. They just didn't have the same tools or knowledge as us. They weren't stupid by any means. Like the average Paleolithic person would have known so much more than us and have very specific things. So with their like brain matter would have had to know, oh, like, where do I go to hunt this beast? Like, where can I find these plants? What plants are poisonous? How do I do this? How do I do that? All the skills that you need to actually survive would have been up there. Like today, we know a lot more. Sure, there's a lot more information in our brains. I can tell you. I can reel off dates for the next like hour, but that'd be very boring for you guys. But we've also lost a lot. I think we've lost a lot in terms of our general skills and yeah.
Well, we're at a point where, you know, I mean, it's the perfect example of Google Maps. You know, you still have older people, the older generation who insist on like looking at a piece of paper. I'll be the first to admit, like, I wouldn't know how to like handle that. If I'm walking around, yeah, sure, but it's like, okay, well, which direction are you going? You know, where, you know, like, and that sort of basic level of intelligence is essentially like being rubbed away
Yeah.
for exchange of comforts and convenience, which we need to remind ourselves is not the same as intelligence.
Of course. Yeah.
And, you know, like a friend of ours, actually, it's a guy who we recorded the Ancestral music video at his farm. So that video had two sections, one which was outdoors, and then another one that's indoors, where it's the band performing.
Yeah.
Those indoor ones when the band is performing, you were in the outdoor shots, by the way. So anyone who's seen the flagellation scene, Connor is the guy who absolutely destroyed his back with those chains. So fair play to you for doing that. But the indoor shots now that we did, I digress. So this guy, super interesting character actually. He was telling me that he went to spend some times with the Aborigines tribes in Australia.
Awesome. Yeah.
And he said that he almost like died because of lack of water. And the tribe were so skilled at trying to find the water, they would literally smell maybe the subtle like humidity, and then it would still be like another 30-40 minute walk before you could go to it, and you had a water. So like
we were literally superhuman. Like we had all these skills that we just don't use these days, because as you say, we live in a world that is constructed for our convenience and for our comfort. Like, can you imagine going out and like getting out to sniff out water in the desert? Like, I couldn't do that. No, but like that would have just been your sort of standard state of being back in the day. And I think Aborigines are really interesting. They had this concept called the dream time, which I don't know too much about, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but like it is just this sort of very place-based understanding of the world. They'll like look at the mountains and they'll be able to tell you like a sort of mythological story about how it was created and like what that means to them individually. It's fascinating. I love it. I think we've lost that a little bit in modern day. Yeah. I don't know how to say that, but yeah, I think there's a lot that we've lost. Obviously, like I'm a big believer in humanity, and I'm a big believer in our sort of inner fire and the fact that we are special, and we have this relationship with nature, and that I think recently we've kind of been using a little bit. I think that a lot of us have bought it lightly. Well, yeah, of course. A lot of people see us as separate from the planet and separate from the biosphere and the ecosystem, but we have always been a part of it, and we are still a part of it. Like, we can build up the comforts in our life as much as we want, but you know, I think there's going to be a reckoning very soon when, maybe things aren't as good for us humans. But I won't get into climate change too much. We'll talk about the album.
It's not even just so much that, because that in itself is a heavily debatable topic. But one thing that I think, despite what anyone believes in, I think everyone should be able to at least agree on, universally, regardless of like what your political views are, and any of that stuff. Because to me, pollution is a real thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's a serious thing. But I think it's the factor of we have exchanged temporary comforts for a lot of permanent safety barriers.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, even with some of the materials that we're using in buildings today, that's material that's not going to last forever, which is criminal. Shouldn't be doing that, because that's going to fall apart. But we're doing it in exchange for just a quick fix of uptick of a set of numbers on a screen somewhere.
Yeah.
And we keep doing this over and over and over, prioritizing comfort and accessibility instead of long-term sustainability.
Oh, for sure.
And that's a problem, as you say. Like, nature always has its consequences. Everything has a trade-off.
Yeah.
Nothing in this world is of such that you can just take and give nothing back in return.
Yes. Well, yeah, I agree with you. Like,
and that's just the blueprint and the reality of the matrix. That's just the laws of the universe that we live in. Everything works in exchanges.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think after this, excuse me, we've become like obsessed with this idea of like infinite growth, I suppose. Like, is there going to be a profit this year? Is there going to be X this year? Is there going to be Y this year? Are the numbers going to go up? But sure, that can continue to exist for a time. But to dial it back to nature, what happens if, say,
sorry to interrupt your flow there. Inherently, I am not against that at all.
Yeah.
I am all for growth, and I am all for like businesses and everything growing.
Yeah, sure.
But it's, I think, how we do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's got to be done sustainably. Like, I don't, and maybe we'll come on to AI in a bit. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to grow and have more, but it does need to be sustainable. If in an ecosystem you suddenly have an influx of predators, say like you're in a forest and like there's a wonderful population booming wolves one year, but what's going to happen? Like, those wolves will obviously hunt down a load more prey animals. Those prey animals will die off, and then there won't be enough food for all the wolves, and then the wolves will die off. And like, nature has a way of restoring the balance in the world. And I think, I think we're quite far out of whack with the balance at the moment. And yeah, something will happen to bring us back into it. And I guess that's kind of like relates back to the album as well. Like, the world that they lived in is out of balance. The climate does change. The glaciers have encroached. Obviously, the world was getting colder back in 54,000 BC. It was affecting our ability to live in the north of Europe because it was dominated by these vast ice sheets that sucked all of the moisture out of the surrounding land. It turned everything into a tundra. Like, sure, mammoths could survive there. They're having a grand old time, but there's not enough for humans to eat. So we need to move south into more hospitable climes, and which obviously is
Climate cool leaf.
Yeah, exactly. Which is obviously the push of the album. Then migrating south and trying to find a place where there isn't this eternal winter.
So the timeline of the album is 54,000 BC.
Yeah, roughly. No,
Mainland Europe.
Mainland Europe, 54,000 BC. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Like, deep in the heart of the Paleolithic. In Europe.
Yeah. And we also have different characters in the album as well. You've got chieftain, you've got the shaman,
Yep.
you've got the seer.
Yep. It's so yeah, I wanted to sort of make it, I like to go for like an archetypal sort of cast rather than like giving specific names or features or whatever. Like I wanted them to represent certain aspects that we see throughout human history. So obviously, can go a little bit into Jungian archetypes, but if you look at the chieftain, that is like the sort of king figure, Shan, like the magician, like we've got these very sort of universal, I think, tropes that you can lean into. So obviously the chieftain is his people says the shaman is like seeking out wisdom from the gods, from the spirits, from the universe to try and navigate them in such a way that it'll allow for the majority of their people to survive. Then obviously you've got like your seers, your sort of warriors, hunters, whatever it might be underneath that, which I'm sure you'll see in a few more weeks.
We should talk about the title track, Primordial Bloodlines. Sure. So I just want to say this on the record, in terms of compositions that I have made outside of Tribex, at least, this is by far my favorite song I have ever worked on. And yeah. To be honest with you, as a songwriter, which is, I always consider myself a songwriter before I consider myself a performer, which might be of surprise to a lot of people to hear that.
No.
And I would say Primordial Bloodlines is maybe top 3 songs I've ever had the privilege of working on.
Fantastic.
And I think you and I, when we first sat down and worked on this, was back in, I think, mid-2018.
Yeah, would have been.
And we were having to put together a set list for the first show when we didn't have enough material for it. So we kind of, actually, cut that. Just have a quick minute of silence. Professional. And I remember specifically, like when we were working on that, I knew that this was something special. Now, at the time, we didn't actually quite have lyrics yet, and obviously, this ended up becoming something far more special once your lyrics were added to the song, because, like, every single time I listen back to the album and it gets to that outro section and I listen to the lyrics matched with the melody, it just makes the hair stand up on my neck, Mario, because it's so fucking powerful. So I just want to kind of say that on the record. Maybe let's talk a little bit about the actual story of that song in particular, because I think it's so interesting and it's so relevant to what we are just talking about right now.
Yeah. So obviously the album is called Primordial Bloodlines. It ends with a song called Primordial Bloodlines, which is the sort of I guess the zenith of this tribe's story. Like they have gone from the sort of north glacial peaks, gone on their journey, and it ends with kind of the shaman goes on a sort of spirit quest, spirit journey. It's this sort of looking back into ancestral memories. I was inspired by a book by Jean Hall. I think, is she a French author? I don't know. But she wrote a book called Clan of the Cave Bear. And in Clan of the Cave Bear, there is this shaman called a Moguru, who is a Neanderthal. And the idea in the story is that Neanderthal can access their ancestral memories. They can look all the way back into the past of their species. And they just know how to do things like nap flint, like make stuff, like skin animals, where it's just the book. I wanted to experiment with that from more like Homo sapien idea of looking forward into the future. So there is this, I guess, this idea of the shaman sort of going through all the motions, is going on this spirit quest. He is like seeing the damage and the destruction that humans will do to the natural world. He is seeing the sort of extinction of his race of people. He is seeing the extinction of his bloodline. He is seeing the, the ending of his way of life. He sees like the entire history of humanity lay out before them. And maybe controversial to say in black metal, I don't think we are particularly black metal, but I don't see the value in art that is always negative. I want to be putting something positive out into the world. I want to have a grain of hope. I want people to be aspirational, not sort of looking in themselves and bringing themselves down.
Being negative is the easy way out.
Yeah.
Always. It's the easy option in today's world to be negative, and also understanding that being negative is not the same as being critical. Of course, being negative is when you essentially put out this poisonous reaffirmation that there are no solutions.
It's a cop,
and that it's a cop out, exactly. And that's the way of the coward, in my opinion. Exactly why I am so vehemently anti-DSBN, because to me, the value of life stems from, let's look at it like this. Everyone dies.
Yep.
There's an expiry date on everything. You can say that, oh, we're actually inside a simulation that is trying to like push you down, is trying to oppress you, is trying to do all of that. And even in the context of love, when you are in a relationship, or like you're married, or like you have that person on your side, like you will always have an expiry date on that. And that expiry date is you and that person will either break up one day, or one of you dies first. That is the fate of every single relationship. Life to me is about seeing that, accepting that, and still choosing to love that person and being loyal to them in spite of that.
What is the point if you don't do that? Like, you meet negative people throughout your lives, and I always find that there's sort of like poisonous negativity sort of like leeches out of them and drags everyone down with them. And I've made an effort to try and like cut those people out of my life. Well, I 100% agree with you. Like, life ultimately is what you make of it, and you are here to live it. You only get one fucking shot. So if you are going to spend your entire life dragging yourself down and dragging other people down, then fair enough. But at the end of the day, you are just going to impact yourself. Like, you get out of life what you put into it. And I think that particularly in the modern day, there is a tendency, we are like constantly bombarded by these like negative news cycles. Like, everything is geared towards like a negative slant. You know, like, look at the news, it's like, oh, something gone really well today. It's like, there's always something going wrong. And bringing it back to the sort of like Paleolithic mindset, like, we didn't evolve to contend with this constant cycle of bad news and negativity. We evolved to exist in sort of, like I said, tribes in between like 20 to 60 people, maybe 100 at a max. I think it's called the Dunning number or something, like the amount of relationships that a human can sort of maintain. I think it's like 150 potentially. But we have news constantly bombarding us from all over the world, horrible things happening all over the place. Like, it is hard to be a positive person in the modern day. Like, it is hard to sort of see everything that's going on and think, I'm still going to get up and I'm still going to make that, but I'm still going to forge towards the light and forge towards all that is good.
And let's remember one thing as well. Again, being negative is not the same as being critical.
Yeah.
Okay, still have problems that you can choose to deal with.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as saying there are no solutions. Everything is fuck. Everything is out of my control.
Yeah.
That is the easy answer.
It's defeatist. Yeah, I refuse to be a defeatist. There was a period in my life where like I was kind of like stuck in that dark rot, where I just couldn't see any solutions. I couldn't see like the good in the world, and I couldn't see a way out. And like, thankfully,
Same here.
you get through it. You sort of, well, no, that's unfair.
You don't
Get
get
through it to get through it. You make yourself go through it. Like, you actively choose to focus on what is good and actively choose to focus on getting yourself out of them. And I think that's, yeah, at least in Primordial Bloodlines, that is what I wanted to do. There is an Old English poem, dedicated to Anglo-Saxon stuff here as well. There's an Old English poem called Dale, and the subject of Dale is a retelling of lots of Germanic myths. And every stanza of the poem ends with the same phrase, "Das of Freolde, this is Swanate," which is Old English for basically, that was overcome, this too will be overcome. Goes through a list of Germanic tragedies, terrible things happen to each person, they all got over it. They all overcome. And I think that is a beautiful message to put forward into the world. Like, no matter what your trials are, no matter what is doing wrong in your life, no matter how bleak it may seem to you, like, you can always choose to get the fuck back up and fight against that. You can always choose to better yourself and to better the world that I do. And I'm like fully committed to putting out these positive vibes into the world.
Oh, look, man. Yeah, but let's not discount it with that, Tom, because, because that's an extremely valuable thing. To me, and I remember being at points in my life where, as you said, it feels like you've dug in so deep and you're looking around and you can't even see where that light is shining through from the entry. And all that surrounds you is darkness. And to your point, when you're saying, like, you just have to get back up and fight, even if you're in a position where it's really hard to foresee where the light is, or like, well, why are you doing it? I think fighting just out of spite is something that will get you through a lot.
Yeah, it's commendable.
And it's surprising how that, as a baseline, that can get you so fucking far in life.
Yeah.
And you can actually get to a place where it's like you look around and all you see is light. And, and look, it's not, the problems don't go away. They're not supposed to go away. I think part of the reason, I've touched on this before with some of the messaging I've put out there, but one of the reasons why I think people are so disheartened about life in general is because they expect it to be easy.
Yeah.
Because they get introduced to life itself under the wrong framework.
Yeah.
And the only reason for that is because they're born into comfort. And that's not their fault. That's not their parents' fault. It's good that they're born in that comfort.
Yeah.
But they're removed from their true perspective of reality.
Yes.
And this is why I recommend everyone to watch as many wildlife videos as possible.
Okay, I love it. It's great.
To me, it's such a sobering thing to see, because you realize, oh yeah, that gazelle getting fucking eaten by that cheetah, whilst it's got no painkillers to stop it from feeling the pain. Well, it's paralyzed, so all it can do is sit there and watch itself get eaten alive and feel the pain of the sharp teeth biting away at it. Realizing that that could be you.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that you have to go work so you can buy food for yourself or whatever, and the fact that you have a roof over your head, and that perspective is a very sobering one. Okay, now I know a lot of people will then say, oh, you're not supposed to work like a 9 to 5 or whatever. But look, it's a transaction between you and a system that's providing the safety. If you want to go create your own system elsewhere, be my guest. I absolutely will not stop from that.
Yeah.
But let's not get pedantic about it. Let's look at it for the truth that it is. And it's the fact that the life that 99% of the people on this planet live right now, most of their ancestors, that this would have been their dream.
Yeah. This would have been beyond their dreams.
Beyond their dreams. Yeah. You're living better today than a king would have done a few hundred years ago.
100%.
And that's not even a long time ago.
No. Like, yeah, like, we live in the most comfortable time for humans that has ever existed. Like 100% free. There's no argument about that whatsoever. I think, yeah, obviously it comes with its own challenges. Like you referred to people talk about not working 9 to 5. Yeah, there are like, I guess, a lot of mental issues, but I think that comes from like a lack of perspective, maybe, understanding of the unique system that we live in and our general history. I think like there's just a little bit of gratitude that we as a species have done so fucking well at the game of life that we've made it comfortable for us. Obviously, more so in the West than other places in the world, granted. But like, we fucking won. We have like put ourselves at the top of the food chain. And I've got my own opinions on like how that sort of divorces us from nature a little bit. But as you say, we're not being fucking devoured alive by cheetahs or crocodiles or
And I'm sure. Well, actually, I don't know. I'm hoping the perspective is a sobering one for people, but to anyone saying, "Oh, I would rather do that than this," like, I guess, buddy.
Yeah. You know what? Like,
It's like, yeah.
there's a word called anamoya, which means like a nostalgia for a time that you have never lived in or like never experienced. And I think like talking about the Stone Age and talking about prehistory, I do experience a certain amount of anamoya because like what challenges do we really have? What substantial challenges do we have in modern world?
Problem is, by the way, a lot of people very much take advantage of that phenomenon. Like you got people like the Liver King, who's obviously no longer of relevance, but that whole bullshit about like ancestral tenets and things like that, so as this, it's like, no, but like the whole thing with that kind of, I mean, it was a scam anyway. It was like trying to make money off the supplement company and lying to people about taking steroids and then lying again, because the money's good or maybe it's just a bad, I don't know. But like, you see that sort of thing and then you think to yourself, you can look back at your ancestors and learn from them. You can improve your quality of life. You can improve your connection to nature, but also understand that many of your ancestors were tormented by nature.
Yeah.
They were not having a good time.
No, right. Like that's I talked about this in one of the interviews that he got sent by Apocalyptic Witchcraft, our record label. But yeah, I think like for a lot of people, nature is now like just something nice, just something that's nice to have. Like you go out,
It's a commodity.
fantastic. Yeah, it's a commodity. You go out at the weekend, you have a hike, you ride a bike, you go out camping, or if you're a fan, you go glamping and sit in a like lovely air conditioned like little lodge. Like as you say, for the majority of our history, nature has been our opponent, and I understand why we have sought at every opportunity to exert mastery over nature. We have like felled forests, we have like diverted rivers, and like done all sorts of unspeakable things to it. But it made sense in the context of the time because it was dangerous to us. Like the climate would freeze us, it would cause a drought and extinguish our food supply. Like millions died, not as a result of like war or like plague, but just because something changed in the environment that they lived in. And for a lot of people, that's no longer the case. Obviously, in some parts of the world, that is ramping up a little bit as the temperatures do increase. But yeah, it's been our opponents for a long time. But I think going back to talk about sustainability, we've got to learn to live with nature and work with nature rather than to assert our like dominance and mastery over it, because I think that is a very egotistical position to hold. Like we are sitting on the surface of this wonderful planet, and if the worst comes to the worst and there is like an ecological catastrophe, if like climate change is as bad as all that and we go extinct, the world will continue without us. The world will heal, and
I actually don't think that's. I'm not even worried about that part.
yeah,
No,
I mean, like,
no, I'm not. I'm not. as concerned by that part.
Yeah.
I think knowing us and the level of manipulation we have over nature, I think that we probably make that worse for the sake of policies, and we could engineer it to be worse.
So like I would engineer worse ecological things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's already been happening, to be honest with you. But that's a whole other fucking.
Delve into that other point. Yeah, it is what it is.
I think you could easily, because then by doing that you limit freedom of movement, and you limit the possibility of ownership by getting more money out of people by squeezing them dry.
Yeah.
So you then create a situation where you're like basically trying to rein everyone in like a herd of sheep, but you do it on a global scale.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, I'm vehemently against that. Fuck that shit.
Yeah,
Fuck that noise.
You should be freaked out.
So when we talk about those kind of topics, I'm always a bit like, okay, but how bad actually is this? And how much of it are we doing it to ourselves?
Well, yeah. If you look at it like on a, again, I'm kind of obsessed with deep time. If you look at the world on like a geological time frame, like, yeah, climates change all the time. In the very, very early days of our planet, it was so much harder than it is now. And there was all sorts of weird little creatures running around. And we had like ferns that were as big as trees. And yeah, it was a different time. If you look back at just human history, there have been droughts. There have been, like massive sea level rises. Doggerland, which is an area of land between England, or United Kingdom, and Northern Europe, that was flooded around 11,000 years ago, but it was like probably one of the main population centers of Paleolithic, Mesolithic Europe. Like, it's got washed away in the sea. We have obviously massive upticks in temperature, like vast areas of the planet. Like the Sahara used to be a jungle. People who lived there, you got all these rock paintings in like various caves in Sahara that were made when the Sahara was a jungle and like loads of people like lived and hunted there. Like we have endured climate change over and over and over again for hundreds of thousands of years. I'm not concerned that, we're kind of fucking over a lot of other species with it, but ultimately we're also only fucking ourselves over. So
well, yeah, that's the thing. So when you speak of the that I can align with, because when you speak of the sort of the egotistical approach to nature, where you're abusing and taking advantage of it instead of coexisting with it, then that turns into a situation where ultimately you're cheating yourself.
Yeah.
Because you are the same as this thing.
Yeah. Like, it's like fucking...
It's like a wrestle.
Yeah.
It's about finding like the sweet spot.
It's just shooting yourself in the foot as well, right?
Yeah.
Sam. Well, whose fault was that? Oh, it's me. Shit. I don't know. It's a sweet topic. What have we got for nature? We were talking about fucking ancestral memories.
Well, I think the two are very connected. How much of our ancestral memories are nature?
All of them. If we are nature, yeah, all of it. Surely. Like, not even just Homo sapiens, we've only been around for like 200, 300,000 years. Can't remember exactly. But like other species of humans, like Erectus, Neanderthalis, Denisovans, we've been around for fucking ages. It's like there's so much to dig up there, and the fact that we are the only human species that still survives is, I think, testament to how adaptable we are, and how there's this sort of like fire within humanity that that I don't think can be extinguished, that I do think is sort of integral to our life here on the planet.
It wouldn't unless we extinguish it ourselves within our own self as an individual. So
I think that's what we're seeing more and more. I think that
it is, and a part of it is because people are convinced that there's no point.
Yeah.
And that's the real
that's
the real evil.
Creeping nihilism affected society. It's awful.
And I think this is the and it's a drip feeding of it. It's like a slow turn psychological programming of humans that, hey, like, imagine like trying to convince a king that his rule over a kingdom doesn't really matter, it's not really that important of a country, or there might be somewhere better somewhere else, or like, oh, there's no point to all of it, and the king slowly actually listens and starts believing that garbage instead of saying, you're the fucking king. And there's a lot of people here that rely on you.
100%.
And I want to relate a king to Aleister Crowley's star. Every man and every woman is a star. That's how I look at that. And that fire should be nurtured
100%.
within every human being. But ultimately, it's down to each person to choose for themselves how much of that fire they want to carry within them.
I agree. I think what you said about like the slow psychological drip feeding, like on Jack, it's like that. Well, you know, that they put a frog in a pan and you slowly tell the temperature, and the frog doesn't realize that it's slowly being boiled. That is how I see humanity. Right? Like we do have.
Have you ever boiled a frog before?
No, I can't imagine it tastes nice. I've eaten frog. That was quite tasty. Very French though. But we like the French. Kind of. I do like the Franks. They're my favorite. Yeah.
They're great. Like, English people give them so much grief, but like,
I think it's a friendly grief, you know. Like we've been at war with France for ages, but we've also been like their buddy for ages as well.
well, they're the last people that successfully invaded.
Yeah, it's too soon. It's too soon.
It's only 900 years, so I don't know. Yeah.
God, fuck you, William. Yeah, I do like the French. They are fun. I enjoy the.
But I don't want to get too derailed after a conversation here. So to bring it back in, I think because we were onto a really interesting thing there. So what is so valuable about that and that fire and that rekindled spirit of our ancestors and just appreciating what they went through for us to be here? I think that's exactly what Primordial Bloodline refers to, and essentially that's the concept of the album and WYRDSTÄF. The message of the band is to ultimately allow for a perspective that helps people to reconnect with their own roots.
Of course, yeah. Like it's about endurance. It is about like living in the modern world and sort of pile your way through. I do think it's really important that you say like reconnecting with your own roots, because you know we're all from different places and you know we all have different backgrounds, different ancestors. I do think it's so important to like, as you say, yeah, connect with them, to understand where you come from, to understand where your people are from, to understand where you're going in life.
And you should have no guilt about it.
No,
There should be zero guilt. You should only feel proud of that, of course, because you won. If you're living here, if you're an alive human being right now,
yeah.
you won. You're winning.
If it wasn't for your like, if it wasn't for your ancestors, yeah, you wouldn't be here. And like the odds of you making it through are just like so small. It is like a statistical miracle that we're all left there. Like, even if you like dial it back to just the last generation, like you are one of like probably millions of fucking sperm, and like it's insane.
The sperm analogy is super relevant, and I know that some people get uncomfortable when they start thinking about this, but just even think of it. Out of, like you said, like millions of different sperm, only one reaches the egg. Every person listening to this right now was that. But not only this time, but every other time through their ancestors, through their parents, through the grandparents, through their parents, through their grandparents, and all the way back. You've never died. You have never died, and you have survived this long to be here right now, to be listening to this,
And you choose to be fucking depressed.
well, I hope you're choosing better.
Exactly. That was maybe a flippant comment to that.
It's like, oh, I won too hard. Let me offset that. No, fuck that noise. No, keep winning. Carry on winning.
Exactly. It's it is an absolute blessing to be alive on this planet. Yes. Even if I did wish that I could live in the Stones just for like a week to see what it was like. Probably wouldn't survive, but you know.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, would you actually survive a week?
Well, it depends. If I were deposited in the middle of Paleolithic Europe on my own, I would probably get eaten within like a day or two.
Yeah, because you probably can't smell the predator's breath from 2 miles away. which they probably could have done.
Yeah. Sounds weird.
That's why you know that, like some people who go like hunting, like it's imperative that you have to brush your teeth because the fucking deer can smell your bad breath from like a mile away.
Sense, yeah.
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 And we would have been like that.
No, it's like, yeah, you can like smell death from like so far away as well, and like smell corruption or smell like the illnesses on people. It's insane. And like I think, you hear these stories of like people who can sort of smell when you got cancer or like smell when you got a certain disease, and it's interesting to
Just get an itchy knee when it's about to rain.
yeah, like
My ex's grandmother used to be like that. Yeah. She always used to, rest her soul. She used to get an itchy knee on her right knee. And every time that happened, it would rain.
Oh.
Like later that day.
but like
And this is not just like some fault.
yeah. But like
I
that
think
doesn't happen because there's an evolutionary advantage in that somewhere. So like
What I'm trying to say is, sorry to keep interrupting you. What I'm trying to say is, that's not some like weird like magic thing.
No.
That's just an inherited skill.
Like that's evolved for some certain reason, and like just because the world that we've changed like means that it's a little bit weird these days. Like back in the day that'd have been like, oh right, sound it's gonna rain. Oh, so and so says, do you smell of sickness? Like maybe go and eat some healing herbs. I don't know. It's yeah, there's a lot that we've lost, I think. But I want to tell the stories about that time because I think it's such an interesting period of history to think about, because, like it is 98% of our history. For 98% of all of human history, we were living in these small bands. We were nomadic. We were wandering around the steppes, wandering around the forests, like living in caves.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah. It's interesting.
Well, I'm incredibly excited to get this album out there, man.
Me too.
Yeah.
Bit way fun.
It's going to be great.
And the next one.
And the next one, we might have already started working on that. Let's just before we wrap this up, I also want to quickly touch upon a book you've been writing as well.
Oh yeah. So obviously, like Primordial Bloodlines is a story. It is a story told through music. I do write as well. That's a lot more in the sort of dark fantasy genre. It's like 408,000 words, 700 pages long. Just a sort of imagining of a society that has been ruled over by celestial beings for a long time. Kind of post-apocalyptic. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. What would you like to know about it?
I don't know. Just tell me, like, how the fuck did you get started writing an entire book? Because it took you, what, 4 years to do it?
Yeah. But can't remember exactly. Like between.
And you kind of kept this a bit quiet as well. You were a bit like, hey, I'm maybe working on this project, and then out of nowhere, it's like, yeah, I've got a massive that's a book.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it's fantasy.
It is fantasy, yeah. So I've always been like into, history and historic fantasy. So I wanted to put that into practice. Like when I was younger, I always wanted to be an author. That was like my dream goal, I suppose. Back when I was in high school, I think like that slowly got lost a little bit when I was at university. But it was always like there in the back of my mind. And eventually I just thought, you know what, like I still want this. I still want this to be what it is I do for a living. But it's not going to happen unless I just sit back and stop doing it. So, yeah, God. Like, yeah, 3.5, 4 years, I think it took me to write it. Just getting through the editing process now. It's like 55% of the way done.
What's your plans for publishing it?
So obviously once it's edited, it's gonna like ping it out to a few beta readers, get them to have a look, give me some feedback. I've got like a list of agents that I would like to try and get in touch with and see if they're interested in representing me. Find a nice publishing house together.
So if anyone's listening to this right now, and if that's down your alleyway, if you have the right connections, reach out to our Connor.
Hit me up, and I'm all ears. Yeah, but no, it's a lot of fun. It's all like set within this fictional universe that I've created called the Ancestral. The idea of it is like it's this area of space-time that has been like ripped out of the rest of the universe, which we call Kakala, with this howling void of chaos by a benevolent god, and sort of exists in its own like separate bowl. And the story goes through the lives of these 4 people from very different backgrounds. One of them is a Stone Age warrior. I've tried to base it on like my own historical like background as well. So it's very much like sort of set in like a fantasy version of the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. But it is post-apocalyptic. Like there was a space age like 10,000 years ago. The characters are living in the declining period of that, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to write, and I'm looking forward to getting to that there, whenever that might be.
You gotta do the audiobook as well?
470,000 words is a lot of work to read. I would rather get someone else to.
We said more just during this podcast, so I'm sure you can manage it.
True. I did.
Well, probably not that many, but still.
I did do like a reading of a short story, which was 6,000 words, and that ended up being like I think 27 minutes long. That's on YouTube. So,
well, let me know if you need a hand with the audiobook. Or if you want a British accent specifically, though, I'm afraid I can't help you. Unless I give you a northerner.
And there was it. Oh no.
One out from shop.
There's a society based upon like sort of Mesopotamia, Babylon, ancient Persia. So maybe I'll rope you in for that.
Cool.
It could be fun.
And then in that case, I can speak like I am an Iranian.
Yeah.
And I speak like this.
Yeah. Hey.
Instead.
Yeah. Talk about worship in the sun. You'll have a grand time.
Sounds good, man.
Always. Happy days.
Connor, my man, what a fucking great chat.
With a pleasure.
Hell yeah, brother. And yeah, to all of you guys listening to this, look, the album's coming out on the 4th of September via Apocalyptic Witchcraft. It's a really fucking cool album. It's don't listen to it as track by track. Listen to the full album so you get the full experience. Like the whole album is kind of like one track, really. Yeah. That's how we designed it. So you listen to it, you go through the journey, you listen to the journey of this tribe. And I also might seem biased, but there's some pretty fucking cool riffs there as well. So there we go, man.
Agree.
Yeah. Cool. So hell yeah, enjoy the album, listen to WYRDSTÄF, keep an eye out for Connor's book, and we'll see you next time.
Good as.